What's up, guys? Welcome back. If you've been following along, you'll know that I was just in India for an intense yoga teacher training, but I'm clearly not in India anymore. I'm back in Athens, Greece, where I've lived for just over 2 years, but I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic because today is my last full day as a resident of this beautiful city. I start my next chapter tomorrow, more on that in a little bit. But on my last full day, I figured I would take you around to some of my favorite spots in this city, show you some beautiful views, and talk a little bit about the lessons that I've learned from living here for the past 2 years. So let's get to it. I'm sitting on Areopagus Hill in the shadow of the Acropolis and the Parthenon. It's just a beautiful spot, very lush and green, an amazing view of the city. It's a good place to stop and talk for a little bit. So to give you some context as to how I ended up here, I've been living here just over 2 years on a digital nomad visa. I was working in Southern California. I'm basically a holistic healer. So I help people get out of pain, recover from injuries, learn to use their body better for life and for sports. I've worked with hundreds of Olympians and professional athletes from around the world. And so I had the opportunity to move here, and it was partly for just the adventure of it, because why not? Partly for a relationship I was in at the time with a professional athlete who lives here, and partly to work with some of the other professional athletes here and just be able to experience a new part of the world. And so last night, one of my longtime virtual clients was asking me, like, what's the biggest lessons I've learned from this 2-year chapter in Greece? And one of the biggest ones is that pain and discomfort is the gateway to growth and healing and transformation. There's so much about our Western world that leads us to want to avoid pain or to run from it or to feel entitled to comfort. Right? Like we want the big plush luxury car and the big fancy house with air conditioning and heat, so it's always at a perfect temperature. We want food delivered on demand. We want to be able to push a button and have whatever we want delivered to our door within 48 hours. Right? We have everything in our culture is trying to get us to be more comfortable. And coming here was a huge exercise in discomfort. To come somewhere where you don't speak the language, you don't know literally anyone. Like I knew one person when I landed here, and to not know how to function at all, like not have a car, got to figure out how to navigate the trains. Like going to the grocery store is a challenge because you can't read anything on any of the labels, and trying to just navigate the very basics of life that we take for granted when we're in our comfort zone. Like all of that is a challenge. But in doing that, like it brings up emotions and discomfort, like to not know how to just buy stuff at the grocery store, right? That's a feeling of vulnerability. Or to not know anyone in the city, is a feeling of isolation and loneliness. But as you allow those emotions to come up, then you get better at soothing yourself through that. And then you progressively expand your comfort zone. So now 2 years later, you can navigate the city perfectly fine. You can have conversations in a foreign language, right? You've tried all of these different foods that you never even heard of. And that process progressively expands the comfort zone. Whereas for people who are constantly chasing comfort and are afraid to leave their comfort zone, the comfort zone progressively gets smaller and smaller until you're not comfortable ever, you know? Like, one of the reasons that mental health issues and anxiety are so prevalent is because we've become conditioned to think that we deserve comfort. And if anything is off or wrong or not perfect, then we fixate on that one thing that could be better, and that makes us anxious and makes our minds crazy. So to come here facilitated a ton of personal growth. Like, I'm way more social and outgoing and confident and relaxed and sure of myself from the 2 years that I've spent here experiencing discomfort, experiencing heartbreak, experiencing loneliness, experiencing feeling lost. All of that over 2 years has made me way stronger. And so that's one of the biggest lessons of life here. And it's really one of the biggest benefits of travel, is to be able to experience different ways of living, and through that to experience different sides of yourself. And you don't really have to travel to do that, to be honest. You could do that in your own city by choosing to make yourself more uncomfortable, choosing to go to a class or to an environment that really kind of scares you or makes you afraid. Like when I moved here, I started taking jujitsu lessons and dance lessons. And if you'd asked me 2 years ago, like, what are the two things that would make you the most uncomfortable, those are probably it, like wrestling and physical violence and dancing. And so I chose to put myself in those situations. And there's probably something for you that you could do in your own city to make yourself experience that discomfort so that you can practice sitting with those emotions. So that's one of the biggest lessons, that pain and discomfort are the pathway to growth and healing. The other is that you just need way less than you think. When I first moved here, the first year that I lived here, I was in this tiny little studio apartment with just one hot plate and a mini fridge and a super small bathroom that you couldn't even turn around in, and the whole apartment flooded like every third time you took a shower. There was not enough room to like even turn around, let alone move or do yoga or anything. And it was not comfortable, especially coming from Southern California and like nicer, more spacious apartments. There's no like Amazon delivery. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I have never delivered a package here. There's no like all of the conveniences that we have in the US. Like, a lot of that just doesn't exist here. And it's kind of nice, to be honest. Like, you just need way less to be happy. And so then you can come back and indulge in some of those conveniences and some of those comforts, but you know that you don't actually need it. And that is a really profound way to live. In fact, that's one of the key elements of the Yoga Sutras or yoga philosophy. It's called tapas, or austerity. And it's voluntary suffering. I've talked about that in previous videos, but the choosing to make yourself uncomfortable, choosing to give stuff up, choosing to release things that you can be happier with less and less. It's a really important and powerful spiritual practice. It's actually something that you have to embody before you even get to the physical practice of yoga, is to start to embody more austerity, more willful sacrifice. And as you do that, you strengthen your own character, you become more comfortable with yourself, and then you develop a lot of gratitude so that when you do experience those pleasures and those indulgences, you actually appreciate them because you know what it's like to live without them. So two of the main lessons here. We'll carry on with more tour of this beautiful place and talk some more in a bit. I'm climbing up to Anafiotika now, which is this hidden little neighborhood in the shadows of the Acropolis. It's actually a World Heritage, like historic protected site, because it's built to look like the islands. A couple hundred years ago, these really good builders from the islands came to Athens to help work on the king's palace, or so I've been told in some of the tours I've taken. And they weren't really allowed to build here because they're so close to the Acropolis, but they were such good builders that they let them do it anyway. And so there's this little village that almost looks as if you're in the Greek islands, but you're in Athens, just outside the city. So that's what I'm checking out next. From this spot in Anafiotika, you can see almost all of the major landmarks from Athens. This is Mount Lycabettus, which is the tallest point in Athens. There's a church, a hike to get up to the top, and it's amazing views of the Acropolis and of the city. Over here is the Panathinaik Stadium, which is the site of the original first modern Olympic Games. On the other side of these mountains is the city of Marathon. It's 26.2 miles away from Athens, which is why the marathon race is 26.2 miles. If I remember correctly from my tours, the original marathon runner was Phidippides, I think. And there was a big battle over there in Marathon on the other side of the mountains between the Greeks and the Persian Empire. And everybody kind of expected the Greeks to lose, but they ended up defeating the mighty Persian Empire. And the Persians said, screw it, we're just going to sail around the mountains, get to Athens, tell them that we won, and the Athenians will surrender the city to us. Doesn't matter that we lost this battle. And so Phidippides ran up and over the mountains to beat them to Athens, to tell the Athenians that they won the battle, don't surrender. And then, as legend has it, he collapsed from exhaustion when he got there. But he delivered the news, stopped them from surrendering, and the Greeks were victorious. So that's why we run the marathon today. But really, this is just a beautiful place up in Anafiotika. One of the obvious things that makes this place so special is just the crazy amount of ancient history. You know, Hippocrates being the father of Western medicine, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle being the fathers of modern Western philosophy, this being the birthplace of democracy, you know, the first ever marathon, all of the architecture. It's just crazy to walk around here and see stuff from 5,000-6,000 years ago. You know, as someone born in the United States, where the entire country is only 250 years old, it's just wild to see the Parthenon every day and know that that's been there for 5,000 years, you know? Like, we measure our time related to the life of Jesus. And when Jesus was alive, the Parthenon had already been there for 3,000 years. Like, that's how old it is. And it's just hard to wrap your head around that, and how advanced their civilization was from 5,000-6,000 years ago. Way more advanced than we are today. And, you know, in addition to kind of the peace of mind and the comfort in that, you know, the Parthenon has been there through basically every war, the world wars, every economic depression, every plague and virus. You know, like, these things have endured through millennia of human problems, you know, and so it gives you like a time scale and perspective on the day-to-day stuff that you're facing. but it's also just an appreciation for beauty and building things that last. We don't really do that anymore. Nowadays we prioritize efficiency and making things cheap and affordable. But there's something to be said for making things beautiful just for beauty's sake. And when you do that, when you build something meaningful, even though it's not necessarily the most cost effective, you create economic wealth beyond like your wildest dreams. People have been coming here for thousands of years to take in the architectural beauty here, and it generates billions of dollars a year for the Greek government. It's a gift from their ancestors, because they were so motivated to make something enduring, to make something special and beautiful. It's just a good reminder for us to try to leave a legacy and to make something meaningful and enduring. If you're still here, thank you for joining me on my last full day living in Athens. You just saw Monastiraki and Plaka, which are two of the market areas of downtown. You saw the Little Kook, which is this hidden gem of a restaurant that goes crazy with their decorations for all the holidays. And you saw Psiri, a cool little local vibe neighborhood. All just really cool favorite spots in downtown Athens. It's bittersweet that my time is coming to an end. I'm ready for this chapter to be over. I'm excited for the next one. My next chapter, I'll be moving to the Dominican Republic, where we're building a permaculture farm and sustainable eco-village. So definitely subscribe to stay up to date with all of the adventures to come. Feel free to drop a comment, message, whatever. Ask me anything about life outside the US, travel, life in Greece, anything. I'm also a holistic healer, so feel free to shoot me any injury or performance questions. I take one-on-one appointments with people all over the world. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.